Hey everybody, it's Mark Pereira. I just wanted to check in with everybody, talk about some stuff, let everybody know the Ivan Runer book is finally out. Super excited about this. Worked on this book for a very long time, did a ton of research into it. I mean, it's a huge book, right? It's really, really big. I tried to see if I could shorten the size of it. I typically like to publish my books at 8.5 by 11. People over the years have asked me why I do that, and it's mainly because I can put more information in the books. If the books get big, I don't have to worry about page limitations. A lot of publishers have page limitations for publishing and stuff like that, and if I publish it big, I don't have to worry about that, and I can put as much information into the books as I want to. And it also keeps it a little bit cheaper and stuff. So that's why I try to do that, In this book, I actually tried to squeeze it down to a 6x9, and it was over 800 pages. So it really, it was they wouldn't publish it because it was too thick. And so it's a big book. It took me over 3 years to make it. We still got a book 2 that's going to come out, but we're going to let this one make the rounds and promote it, push it out there, and all that stuff. And I'll start working on the next one, which is the first book of the Ivan Runer is going to have the theory behind it. It's basically like, how does it work? Where does all the sources behind it? What do we have on ritual? How do we, sort of flesh it out from the sources and all that stuff? And then the second book will be the rituals themselves. And we're going to be using the actual wording from things. We've found some really good people who helped guide us towards like how to, understand certain ways to put poetry together and certain verse forms and Galder and stuff like that into a ritual format. So we're going to be doing that, and that's going to be something that's going to sort of bolster the whole ritual process. And then when we show that we've got a lot of research behind this, I mean, I really do believe this is going to be a very defining document for our faith. So just really great stuff. Ivan Runer, I'm really excited about it, really excited to have it out and out there for everybody to read. So if you get a chance, check it out. And that's one of the reasons why I want to talk to people today. I wanted to go live today is because in doing so, we have, an argument that's developing with people where people are asking us or accusing us of trying to establish ourselves as some sort of centralized authority, right? And they say, well, these guys are trying to make themselves like, they're the popes of this religion or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And then you have the New Agers come out with their litany of normal excuses of why this shouldn't be this and that shouldn't be that, right? But the thing is that we want to talk about the concept of orthodoxy and orthopraxy and how it applies to our religion, okay? Now, when we look at how polytheism actually expresses its religious foundations, and we see this in ancient Greece, we see it in Hinduism, we see it in Shinto. We have to look at these religions and see how they work and how you look at and understand fundamental precepts behind things, because it allows you to understand how to express the religion. Because one thing I can absolutely guarantee you, is that the religion would have been expressed as some free-for-all hedonist, just montage of whatever the crap you want to do, Like, that's not how any religion works, not how any religion has ever worked. And all these New Ager hedonists who have tried to, latch themselves onto any degenerate model that they could connect to in order to promote their own model of what they project this religion to be is just false. It's not real. It's a figment of their imagination, and it's what they want the religion to be rather than trying to understand what the religion is. Okay, and that's what we mean when we're talking about orthodoxy and orthopraxy. We're talking about trying to define the faith. What is it? How does it work? Because eventually, if you just define it whatever you want it to be, then it ceases to exist. Okay, when we look at Tacitus's Germania and we see traditions like, casting lots, and which are probably runes, right? Or we see burning of dead bodies, and we see ship or cart processions and stuff like that. And then we find those same traditions still in existence 1,000 years later in the sagas, and we discern all of this stuff. You can see all of this in this Ivan Runer book, right? You can see it still existing 1,000 years later in a very detailed connection to them as well. Not like some just, it might be this. Like, it's this, very strongly connected, very strongly discerned from one to another, right? Then there's no way that tradition could have survived for 1,000 years if it was just a free-for-all, do whatever the hell you want to religion, okay? And that's what it is. That's what you're talking about. Establishing traditions that last for thousands of years. You have to have definition. You have to have religious assertion. You have to be able to have a foundation of faith that builds upon something that is concrete and is based upon truth and a spiritual reckoning, right? That it's not just some nonsense that you're just like, do whatever you want. Because if you do whatever you want, then you're not maintaining the tradition. And I know, like, a lot of us today, we take these things for granted because we have the written word, and so the written word is we can put stuff in paper, and then we kind of expect that to last, right? There's just an expectation that it's going to last because it's written down, it's in a book, or it's on a website somewhere or something like that, and but our ancestors didn't have that. They had oral traditions, and so, like, the tradition had to be kept alive and maintained in order for it to survive. And so if you didn't have a foundation, an agreed upon foundation upon what that was, then that would have just vanished. It would have just been just a mishmash of insanity, which is what's going on in the head of most New Agers today, But so the thing is that when you were looking at these other religions, when we're looking at the Shinto, when we're looking at the Hindus, and we're looking at the Greeks, and we're looking at all these living polytheistic traditions that we have enough records of that we know this is what they did and this is how they answered certain questions, the question of orthodoxy and orthopraxy has always been answered by the school of thought, right? You have to have a foundation, and this is something that everybody should be contemplating and thinking about. You have to have a foundation in order to have something to disagree with, right? And that's what you have to consider, okay? Think about, like, the two people who are heathens or whatever, right? Who believe in this ancient Teutonic religion, right? They have to have, is there anything that they can say to one another where one firmly disagrees with the other? And I'm not talking about modernist politics. I'm not talking about online battles. I'm like, this is a religious foundational principle, and this is something that we absolutely disagree with one another. Most people don't have that. You know why? Because they live by this free-for-all, do whatever you want to, ideal. And they don't even know what the religion is enough to be able to disagree with one another. So they just say it's whatever you want it to be, because that's easy. You don't have to research that. You don't have to study that. You don't have to understand that, okay? Well, our ancestors would have had different cults, right? And they would have had different schools of thought that would have developed into, a certain way of looking at the foundational principles of the religion, the orthodoxy and the orthopraxy. There is a way to do this. This is the defining principles of the religion, and then we, develop different schools and different ideas, and those become schools of thought, right? That's how that works. That's how that goes. And that is how polytheists can maintain religious assertions without developing centralized authority, right? Because, like, if you look at Shinto has, like, the kojikis, which are these sacred texts, right? And then everybody has, that's like their foundational principle of their religion is the kojikis. And then they have these schools of thought, and those schools of thought all have different ways of manifesting those kojikis. And then they all, but they all understand that they are a network, and they work together, and they maintain, the worship of the gods and their shrines and all this stuff, right? And that's what they do, and they're polytheists. They have worship of the kamis, and they have the worship at the shrines and all this stuff. And they have, I know there's an argument about whether or not they're polytheists, but you know what I'm saying. It's like a cultural folk religion, and that's what it is. Okay. But the thing is that that's how you manifest this stuff. You have to have some basis, some point of agreement where, like, this is the religion, like, this is the definition of it. And then that's when you go off and you're like, okay, this is how we're going to manifest this expression. You grow it organically, and then it becomes a part of who you are. if your foundation is that there is no foundation, if your foundation is that there is no religion, that there is nothing sacred in it, that you just do whatever you want to, you have nothing, you know, and you can't even create something out of it. It's just a free-for-all, do whatever you want to, and it's just a basis upon, you know, pop culture. And that's why a lot of people on both sides, you know, get angry about political hacks who come in and try to make the religion about their politics. And it's like, that's not what it is. And then both sides get angry about that. Well, it's not left-wing politics. Well, it's not right-wing politics, blah, blah, blah. No, it's neither. It is what it is, okay? I mean, the religion itself is monarchist. It's a monarchist belief system. I had somebody, you know, accuse me of being a LARPer for saying that. And I said, well, monarchy exists today. I mean, that's a valid modern political viewpoint, is to be a monarchist, right? To support the power of the kings and queens. And the thing is if you're looking at centralized authority upon the faith, many of the traditions were established by kings and queens, by the noble families, by the royals. We see that in Rigsstula, right? Where Heimdall gives the Ivanruner and Altaruner to Kon, who becomes Konung, who is the first king, right? And those the Ivanruner and Altaruner are the runes of eternity and runes of earthly life, or runes of the ages and runes of earthly life, right? And so that's the principle of that. Yeah, monarchy is absolutely right-wing. I think people consider, like in the political spectrums, that monarchy is the furthest right. Like that's the farthest of far right. That's what people, because it's hyper-traditionalist. You know, now obviously when we're looking at degenerate monarchs in the world today, that's connected to pop culture, and that's a whole different ballgame. We're talking about a return to the true traditions of this faith, you know, and actually reestablishing those traditions in the furthest possible way we can. And so kings and queens, you know, are the ones who establish the traditions. They are the central authorities of the traditions. We see, like in the establishments of bloats, like phrase bloat and other bloats in the sources, it's kings that are doing this. You know, they step up and say, we're going to establish this tradition, and it's going to be held every year, and that's what we're going to do, you know. And so we have this idea that we establish, you know, the traditions, or we establish the foundation of what the faith is, and what we're trying to do is we're not trying to establish ourselves as a central authority. What we're trying to do is plant a seed so that these things can begin to develop and grow from the point of the conversions, right? And that's the point of all of it, is we're trying to pick up those pieces. We're trying to say that this is the base point, right? This is the way the religion was when everybody got converted, okay? And what we're here to do is start back again, you know, start that motion back up again, to start right back where we were when we got converted. And so that's why I disagree with a lot of people who are like, no, I'm trying to go for the ancient ways, the furthest back. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you want to do that? What you want is the furthest development of the religion, to see how far they went. Because when you go that far, then you have people who've answered all the questions, and they've built all the rights, and they've understand the faith, and they've dealt with problems and issues, and they've debated things and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think you could probably ask any Hindu alive if they would like to go back to before the times when they had all these gurus and yogis like talking about things, and Brahmins and stuff, if they would want to go back before they had all the debates. I'm sure they would say no, because from what I understand, that was pretty hectic for them as a religion. So you want to have the furthest manifestation of the religion, and then you take that foundation, and then you pick up the pieces, and then you rebuild your culture, and then once your culture is rebuilt, then you move forward as a religion. And that's the point behind it. That's the point of establishing orthodoxy and orthopraxy, right? That this is the way the religion was practiced. This is what our ancestors were doing. This is how we define it, this is how we prove it, and this is how we establish it. And so we have to be practical, and we have to understand that that what we are doing is recreating the tradition the way it's supposed to be. And it's not that we are trying to do this. This is the way it is. This is what the religion is. And the idea, what we have to do is when we make a statement like that, I come to you and I make a statement, this is what the religion is. It's on me to prove it. not on me to establish myself as like the grand poobah that you're supposed to worship, because that's the stuff we're trying not to do. We don't want you to listen to us. We don't want you to listen to, cults of personality, YouTube personalities, these, hucksters and liars who are out there trying to establish themselves as like these super, foundational people who are the source of all things, and they're just as much of a source as anybody else, and they have a pedigree of unbroken traditions that nobody's ever heard of before, and you can't prove that they're wrong, and blah, 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 right? And the thing is that we're trying to break away from all that. We're trying to say that it's the sources that tell you this. The sources are what gives you the faith. And that's what it is. And so listen to the sources, listen to the arguments, listen to the facts, listen to the evidence. And we presented this evidence in this book, right? I went through every single possible source I could find, everything from ancient laws to, through all the sagas, through the Roman texts, the Latin texts, the histories. I mean, there's just everything, anything and everything I could find is in there. And so it's important for us to know what the faith is first, right? And there's a lot of stuff in there you're going to see that nobody's ever seen before. A lot of stuff that I couldn't believe when I saw it, But you're going to know when you get done with this book, you're going to know that this is what it is, right? And we've proven it. We've brought it to the court of law, and we have established a mountain of evidence, and we said, this is what it is. This is what our ancestors were doing before they were converted to Christianity. And that's why it's so important for us to push this, because it is, our foundational principle that we are going to pick up the pieces from the times of the conversions. And so when we're doing that and we understand that we have to bring things back and reconnect ourselves to that ancient tradition, then when we're doing that and we're continuing to, practice it and build communities around it and worship around it and all that stuff, then we're going to see that reawakening grow and grow and grow and become more and more strong through the organic development of that expression, rather than just an arbitrary do whatever you want to attitude. All right? So that's what I want to talk to everybody about. That's why we're always talking about these things and why we're debating them. And people get mad at us. So I found that the people who are getting the angriest at us are the people, and we typically, a lot of times when it gets really bad, we check them out, see what they're about. And it's typically people who are trying to establish their own cults of personality. And they don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the research. They just want you to listen to them. Sit down, shut up, listen to me. I'm so-and-so. I started a group or wrote a book or have a degree or some nonsense like that. So you just should listen to me. Don't think, and that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. We're trying to lay out everything for you, all the sources, all the details, every single thing that you can see for yourself with your own eyes, and read it and understand it. All right. So check it out. Get the Ivan Runer book. Look over it. Understand there's going to be a book 2, and we're going to just keep moving forward. We're looking at the law next. We're going to be uncovering every foundational principle, every single thing that we can do. We're going to uncover it all, So that's what we're going to do, And I appreciate everybody, tuning into this and keeping up with this channel and all the work that we're doing. I appreciate everybody in the society for supporting our work and helping us to grow all these things. Because without all these people, we wouldn't be able to do it. I think that's what. I'll put a link in the description. It's on Amazon, but I'll put a link to it and all that stuff. But the thing is that we have like more and more people are getting involved. More and more people. The thing that excites me the most is just seeing people online, on social media groups. That are more and more of them are calling out this New Age stuff. More and more of them saying, no, man, that's not right, and you have people who still hang on to those things and still hang on to those arguments, and I don't know why they want to attach themselves or hold on to it so badly. A lot of them, I think, are just either big fans of these people who write these books, or they are themselves, trying to establish their little cult of personality or make money off of it or whatever, So, we're going to keep doing what we do, building evidence, proving things, and showing everybody that, this is how we can do this, and we're going to do it. So everybody have a great night and hail the gods.